welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you are here. So welcome if you are new here, and welcome back if you're already part of the family. Okay, so I got a question to ask you. Did you watch? Because look, this might be unpopular opinion, but yeah, as far as the Real Housewives of New Jersey's non-reunion end of season thing went, I kind of wish I had a reunion. Look, I'm going to say this. I feel like it really was still a good episode. I mean, it was a nice kind of opportunity where the ladies get to just review a certain aspect of what took place. But beyond that, I still felt like there was, I don't know, something that was missing. And maybe for them, they wanted to have something missing because they didn't want to deal with all the fighting between the ladies. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'm of the camp that I really would have loved to have seen a reunion. How about you? Let me know down in the bottom in the comment section, respectfully, what did you think? Did you watch? Was it intriguing to you? I mean, I'm still stuck on the fact that I really, really would have liked to have had that reunion. So basically what takes place is we're just going to go right into it. Okay. We start off you know what? Before I even go there, I want to definitely share that I actually did a whole recap and review of the actual sit down for the season 14 end of season gathering. So any of the particulars or any of the additional details that you would like, if you haven't got an opportunity to take a look at that video, go ahead and do so maybe after this one, because there's a lot of breakdown of the entire season, if you will, but more in depth, that sit down dinner that so famously took place. So they did a lot of focusing just on that dinner. So a lot of those details and such, I'm going to do a lot of highlights versus the full breakdown like I did in that video. So again, if you want to see all of that, you most certainly could take a look at that video if you haven't had an opportunity to at this point. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. Basically, we start off with the montage, right? It's always a montage here, a montage there, a montage everywhere. And that's just to give an opportunity to kind of give a quick highlight of some of the things that happened over the season, as well as what really took place at that sit down. Then naturally, we start looking into aspects that were covered in some of the flashbacks that we'd already saw from last episode at the sit down. So, we get to see about the beginning meeting between like Rachel and Teresa, for example, how it seemed to be at one point where Daniel and Jennifer had gotten along, all those types of things. Now, it seems to be that there was a lot of, or what I would say, a heavy emphasis on that sit down dinner. And the reason for that was naturally because that's what they were going to dissect. And this is what they were concerned with, they being the, I would assume, Bravo, at the most part, they're concerned as to how things would have unfolded if they had did a reunion with both the sets of the ladies all in one room like they normally have. So obviously you saw in this setup, and we've already been kind of primed to know that what they were looking to do is go back to the same restaurant in which the sit down took place and have two separate rooms for two groupings of the ladies to actually be a part of. And this would give an opportunity really for everybody to, I guess, say what they needed to say without having too much of an opposition or an opposing view from the other person. No real way of having to defend yourself because everybody's probably on your side in that room. So that's where we were at with that. Now, as we see, most of the ladies look to be, feeling okay. They didn't seem to be too anxiety ridden at this point. You're seeing the ladies come in one by one and they're getting mic'd up. And so we're getting to the point that, we're getting ready to rear and go. Also, as far as the montage picks, we also get an overview or an audio view of Andy Cohen doing a previous interview where he's basically, sharing that, we're going to be doing something different and that you will understand why we didn't have the traditional reunion after you see the season finale. But I'm here to say, for those who may agree, we still could use the reunion, but that's just my thought. I sure love to know yours. So we're moving right on along because it was quite a lot to endure, let's say, but it was still fun nevertheless. I didn't dislike the actual process this time around, but I just would have liked all of the fanfare surrounding. But the ladies look great. They still did a bit of a confessional for each one of them, so that was nice. And everybody at least got along. We didn't have any tables thrown, any food thrown, any words slurring to the extent that it would have been if they were all in the same room. So I think it all worked out to no issue at that point. So basically, as the ladies are now entering into the restaurant, we do see that Margaret's one of the first ones that they kind of focus in on. And Margaret's being shared that she's actually going to be in the mosaic room. The mosaic room is apparently the room that they actually had to sit down in. So she says, oh, okay, laughingly, this is like we're going to the scene of the crime. But so she goes in, and then of course Danielle comes up first, or next rather, and she's also being mic'd from the outside. She shares that she's a little bit anxious for the fact that she hadn't seen the show yet. So it'll be interesting to see it in full form at this point, because at the time she said it was pretty rough, and we all know exactly what happened with her and the bit of the altercation and the verbal accosting and possible physical elements that took place at the sit down. Again, they're going to show that right during this episode, but also the breakdown I've got in my recap and review of that sit down as well. As we're seeing the ladies now entering into the restaurant after being mic'd up outside, we see that Danielle goes to the room where Margaret is, which of course that makes sense. And of course she looks great. Like I said, all the ladies look great. They are complimenting each other about that. Margaret says that to her, and she says, Danielle says, look, if I got to sit here and do this, I got to look great doing it. So here we are. They're ready and rearing to go. And then we see at this point Teresa going into this other room with Jennifer Aiden, because apparently Aiden was probably one of the first ones out of that grouping to get there. And so they're in a separate room. Teresa obviously is very excited about that. I think she already knew that was going to happen anyways. There was no way she was going to be in the room with any of the ladies she didn't want to be with. That was the whole purpose of being able to do this type of a setup, right? So there was no mystery in that. So of course those two ladies, they congratulate each other, or I say congratulate, but they compliment each other on their outfits. And they're ready to go at this point. And just excited about, what's to come. Jackie then arrives, which is Jackie Goldschneider. Friends' show used to be one of the main ladies. The one that we find out is the one that was behind all of this foolishness with the ex and all of that. The one that Margaret was falsely accused of. So at this point, Jackie comes in. I'm assuming her and Teresa, from what it looks like, everything seems to be okay. I'm not really sure the time frame from when the season finale sit down took place and when the reunion started. Sometimes we get an idea, well, the non-reunion, I should call it, right? They give us an idea of the time frame. So I'm not really sure how long ago it was, but it had to be at least a few months, right? 6 months or so. It feels like June or something like that is when they did this, but I'm not sure. But if feel free to leave it down in the comment section. So at that point, we then flip over to the mosaic room, which is where Margaret is. And again, Margaret's there, Danielle's there, and Rachel gets there. And I just love Rachel. I love Rachel and Danielle. I really do. I just love them. I think they're great assets to the show. But she comes in, just cute. She wants to be in her little pink mosaic. And she basically, says, hey, look, the PTSD is real, right? Because again, they're in the same room that the whole situation took place. Everybody gets a little bit of a laugh, and then she comes in and she sits down. Now we flip back to the room where Teresa, Jacqueline, and Jennifer Aiden are in, and Jackie basically does share that, look, I haven't seen the show, so I'm gonna, I'm not too excited about it, but I don't plan on trashing anyone. I don't plan on, adding to the toxicity of the situation. At the end of the day, I know you, when she's talking Teresa and Jennifer Aiden and Jennifer Fessler and Dolores for that matter, I think, but she's more talking those two because remember Dolores and had no more for Jackie. So we'll see how that goes in the future if we get a chance to see them together again. But she says, I realize you two are my real friends, right? And so she's fine with that. And, at the end of the day, I can't help but to feel when it comes to Jackie. Look, I really liked Jackie when she first came on the show. I thought she owned herself for the most part. She, really was able to stand up for herself in every aspect. I thought that she was so funny with the get backs and all that good stuff. But I am just not feeling her this season. It's like she's a completely different person to me. And I have to always wonder, Are you really friends with Teresa because you really want to be friends with her? I clip back to a few seasons ago when she was an actual main cast member, and she had shared at a previous reunion how, at the end of the day, she really liked Teresa. You remember how Teresa was kind of calling her like a stalker or something like that, like just a fan of the show kind of thing? Well, so it was a bit disheartening for her that you would be the person that would be my enemy, that this would be where we were at. So I always felt there was a piece of Jackie where she always wanted to just be that friend. And because of the lengths of how it seemed to have gone over time, I just don't see how this is a legitimate friendship, right? But, she probably doesn't give a crap about what anyone else thinks about that. She really does feel that she's being genuine with it, but it just doesn't sit well or go well, right? There's also still the situation with, you had a book. Okay. You might want to get back on the show. Who would better than to be cool with Teresa in order to do that, especially if you look at her as the top icon of the show. So at the end of the day, I would always, if I was Teresa, in my not so humble opinion, I would be a little bit leery about her. I mean, I would definitely keep one eye open at all times. She would not be the friend that I would think I could trust 100%, irregardless of whatever she felt Teresa did to her. The bottom line is you are making a choice to be friends with Teresa. So therefore you're saying bygones are bygones, or are you kind of sitting in there so you can get close enough and be another sniper situation, and then something else comes on down the line that it goes against Teresa for kind of a payback, if you will. So for me, if it was my situation, I for certainly would be one eye open if we were even be that close. But some may feel like Teresa needs allies at this point, because when I'm looking at the sit down situation or the setup of the last night's episode, I'm looking at the fact that the only person really in there with her really would be Jennifer Aiden, because Dolores is cool with both groups of friends. So if Jennifer Aiden wasn't on her, side, if you will, she would be on an island to herself. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So I could see at this point, Teresa, maybe possibly, let me know your thoughts, but campaigning for what would have been her foe previously to be back on the show, because allies are good to have, right? It's not good to be on your own, right? And up against every other lady. I think sometimes it can make you vulnerable too, depending on how things, play out. And at this point, they're still trying to decide what they're going to do with the season from this point on. But nevertheless, that's where we're, at this particular junction. So as, everybody's pretty much getting themselves situated. Everybody's in. We see that Dolores is kind of the last one that comes into the room with Teresa, Jennifer, and Jackie. And so it does seem like, originally there was a thought that it was possible that the two ladies, Jennifer Fessler and Dolores, since they were the two that were kind of the neutrals, that they would kind of bounce between room to room. And that is not what took place, really. Dolores actually sat in pretty much 99% of the time in the room with Teresa and, Jennifer and Jackie. And as you can see right here, and did pop over once on the other side because she felt, upset or saddened for Margaret. And we'll get into that here just real quick as to why that was. If you hadn't seen it, then this will be new for you. If not, this will be a refresher, of course. So everybody's kind of, just talking about kind of getting ready to go, rearing to go, wondering how this is going to take place. But I think also feeling a sense of calm because they felt like they were amongst allies. And so that's kind of how that set in place for them. I sure would hope that Jennifer Aiden and Teresa never have a real fallout, because it would be ugly. It would be ugly, because I really feel Teresa's putting all her ducks in that row and Jennifer's probably doing the same thing. But if they were to have a falling out, and you know how sometimes these so-called friendships and best friendships take place, right? They're cool for a few years and all of a sudden they're, mortal enemies. So that would be one for the ages to see that fall apart if that should ever happen. So again, everybody's pretty much there except Jennifer Fessler. Margaret gives her a call to find out what's going on. Of course, Jennifer Fessler sounds like she's a little bit rattled. She always sounds rattled to me, but I still love her. And she's like, with Margaret on the phone, she's like, look, are you here to go? Holler at me as well? I'm on my way. I'm going, Margaret, or what did she say? Margaret Josephs. And she's like, ooh, okay, you're a little bit feisty, aren't you? So she's naturally irritated because I guess she was behind a truck or something, and that's what was stalling her. But nevertheless, she gets there and she goes directly into the room with Margaret. And as soon as she gets in there, now you see how I've got it set up here, right? The top row is the room with all of the ladies minus Dolores. So when Jennifer walks in to the room, the first person that she really is closest to is Danielle. So as she's coming in, Danielle basically said, okay, we've been waiting on you. So at this point, we want to know, how you feel and how do you feel about the situation. If you watch a show about, the altercation between me and Jennifer Aiden, because if you remember within the season, Jennifer Aiden and Danielle, of course, is why they're in the places they're in right now, had that huge beef where it was a question of whether or not Jennifer Aiden put her hands on Danielle first, or if Danielle put her hands on her first. Right. And that was regarding the situation of the rumors of the charity, and also the association with a hairdresser that Danielle had. And, Jennifer was berating her about those things. And so it got into a heated situation. And of course, Jennifer already, because Jennifer's not the one to be played with either, right? This is the one that helped to plan this whole situation in that sit down, and then took off when she said, look, enough is enough. I can't deal with this and this situation that you guys got going on here. This is what you like to do. I'm not that kind of girl. So at the end of the day, we see that Jennifer is she's ready. She is ready. So when Danielle does that, she goes, whoa, you need to basically slow your roll, back the hell up. You need to slow your roll. I can sit here and, I don't have to sit in here with a bunch of snakes. I can go to the other room and sit with those snakes, so just give me a minute. I'm just not ready. And of course, Danielle kind of gathered herself a little bit, like, I don't think I really meant to come that direct at you, but Danielle's, a little hype girl, right? So she was a little hyped at that moment, but she says, okay. And also what was being played out is that, there was a feeling of a snub between Rachel and Danielle towards Jennifer as well, because we all know that Jennifer and Rachel have not spoken to each other apparently since the sit down, if I'm not mistaken. And so this has been some time here. And, Rachel and Jennifer really had a real friendship. So that was really sad how that seemed to fall apart. And Jennifer had already shared in one of her confessionals, as Jennifer Fessler, of course, and past episodes that, she has a love for Rachel, that she really is just adores her. So her being in this kind of fight with her actually really does hurt her. And I believe her when she says that. I think that Rachel is much more an easier situation to cut somebody off, right? And that might be from her experiences through life. But I also feel like there's a love from her too. But I also feel sad for Jennifer Fessler, because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my friend. And that's not what I have, because they also had a relationship, real true relationship outside of the show. So when she said, look, you need to back up. I ain't here for it. And I'm not ready to have this conversation right now. I just got here. So, they let her sit down, and she, and they're like, okay, I'm just trying to ask you a question. And then of course, she said, look, just not pretend that I walked in here and I got this warm reception, because of course, Jennifer, as she was walking in, was asked, hey, did you say hello to Rachel? And she's like, yeah. And what Rachel had said was, I said hello, and she did. And she said, well, you want me to give you a kiss? So in other words, she didn't feel very warm. She felt warm by the other ladies, but not with them too. So this is the time to hash it out. So she does, kind of collect herself in that moment, says, you know what, Danielle, I want to just let you know, you were right. She did hit you. Jennifer Aiden, she hit you first, put her hands on you first. I got to see the whole thing. I didn't see it before, but I could see it in my eyes, and she was wrong. And you were right. And I should have stood up for you. And so that's all Danielle needed, like, okay, yeah. So Danielle is happy, like, hey, cheers to you, Jennifer Fessler. And they seem to be cool. And so Danielle, in her funny fashion, says, all right, Rachel, you're up. Let's go ahead and, in other words, squash all these issues in this room right now, right? So then, Rachel basically says, look, I don't hate you. I don't feel X, Y, and Z, but I'm hurt too, because I feel like you've always tried to be more of a friend to Teresa than you are to me. And we already know Rachel and Teresa are oil and water. And I don't think those two will ever get to a place where they can be any kind of compound that will mix. Okay. They can't stand each other. And it is very clear. And so Jennifer, basically says, look, just because I was cool with her, as we are seeing the flashbacks of some of those times where Jennifer and Teresa were friendly with each other, just because we were cool with each other doesn't mean that I didn't have your back. It didn't mean that I liked her more. At the end of the day, I care about her, yes, and all of that, but that did not take away from how I feel about you. So, I think at this point they feel like, okay, all right, let's soften this up. We're good. let's not fight anymore. They hug it out. It was a beautiful thing, and everybody in the room is now all getting together, and all things are now copacetic. So we then move on as the ladies are watching, the episode from last week and kind of going through it and, saying the little comments and insults, the same old thing. Basically, like when you watch a watch something kind of thing, 90 Day Fiance does that when they kind of do the watch, or some of the old castmates or other castmates watch the season and speak on it. Same kind of setup. And then we get to the focal point of the first set of things that they're going to talk about in real, detail, which was the fight between, or argument, I should say, between Margaret and Margaret's house, with Dolores and Jennifer being there. And if you saw the recap and review or the episode itself, you will know that had taken place. That fight was, atrocious. Dolores's her reaction was so like nuclear, it really was, and it was so unnecessary. And you're sitting there listening, and why are you getting so upset about this summit comment? And the summit comment, basically, when they did the whole gathering request by Margaret to lead up for the reunion they had last year, to kind of do whatever they need to do to take down Louis, because Louis had gotten a investigator to investigate all of them and contact Margaret's son. So these are the things that they were talking about. And of course, Dolores is like, that you're a liar. And of course, we went through all of that in the recap review. But she called her, a lying see you next Tuesday. And that was just going a bit far. I mean, I said that too. I'm like, oh, what is going on here? And even she is, as she's watching herself back, is like, wow, I really went in. And she's not very proud of herself. And, she's trying to soften it a little bit, but she knows it was bad and it was harsh and it was hurtful. And of course, too, in the same scene, Margaret's little dog Bella was in it. And we do get to find out that Bella actually had passed away. So, so sorry for that for Margaret. I know that she was very, much, beloved in their household. So that was really sad to hear that. And of course, Dolores being an avid pet and dog owner of herself and pet lover, she felt bad about that, seeing that. So that was like a kind of an olive branch moment for her. Although I don't know if she really needed one with Margaret, but it just made her feel bad. And she said, I know that Margaret watching this and seeing this and what took place, because it was bad. And, we did see that Margaret almost felt like she was going to cry. I almost felt like I was going to cry for her. But Dolores sees that dog there. And of course, there's no compassion happening from Teresa and Jennifer and Jackie's side. They're getting a kick out of it. They're laughing. It's fun. It's great. She deserves it. Yeah. But, there was a couple of notes about the fact that Teresa said, wow, I've never seen you get that mad before. You got really mad. Yeah. And I said the same thing too. I've never seen Dolores get that upset. She's had some moments, but this was woohoo. This was even worse than the scumbag comment and also situation she had with Danielle. So she really does feel bad about that. So they're talking about it, and she's like, yeah, I just want you to know I did not. And then she asked, the ladies there, do you believe that I was asked to be part of that so-called summit? She's like, no, we don't believe it. And Jennifer Aiden's like, hey, you just didn't want to be called a liar. And that was that, right? So, of course, at this point, it was a nice little breakaway for Dolores to say, I'm going to go see the other ladies, because as much as I am close with you two, I am close with some of them over there as well. So she actually makes the steps to go over, and she walks in. And, of course, everybody's very friendly to her. But, they're all seeing the same thing at the same time, just in different rooms. And so, at the end of the day, Miss Melissa really wanted to know, what was the deal? Like, why did you get so intense with her about that? And, Dolores, did come up and, like I said hello to everybody, but came and gave Margaret a hug and was very loving to her. And, also wanted to make note about, the passing of her dog, Bella, and just wanted to be there for her, because she knew that was probably going to be a little hard for her to see. But she also, wanted to just share, like, basically, we're good, but at the end of the day, we just heard things differently, because, Margaret stands by the fact that I did tell her, and Dolores, stands by the fact that she didn't. And some of the ladies in the room, with the mosaic room with Margaret, feel like maybe she did say, or maybe she told them that she wasn't a part of it, Teresa and them, but there was a conversation. So maybe it's like almost like, she didn't want them to know there was a conversation. She knew anything about it, right? Because what's the issue if you knew about it? Well, the issue would be that, well, you didn't tell us. Oh, so you're part of that takedown too. And you know how that that rabbit hole can go with Teresa. So at the end of the day, she didn't want that smoke. That's what it seemed like to me. Now, I don't think that she was nervous or scared about Teresa. And that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, it doesn't seem like she would ever, and I said this in the last, my recap and review, I've never noticed that Dolores was ever frightened of Teresa, right? Like Teresa's never came at her in a way that would make me think that, Dolores would be concerned, because Dolores, she's that girl. And she even makes reference to the fact that, I don't have to answer to them. I just feel strongly about X, Y, and Z. So that's kind of how it's left. She doesn't stay very long, but she did wanted to make herself known. Of course, the other ladies are not going to trail over there. They do ask each other within the time frame of this episode if they were going to go to the room, and nobody feels the need to go over there. They even asked Jennifer Fessler, and Jennifer says thank you to Melissa when Melissa asks her about, do you plan on going on over there? Because at the end of the day, you are kind of a neutral party. She said, no, I'm not doing that. But, thank you for asking. So we get past that point for the most part. And like I said, I gave a lot more details about that event in that recap and review. So we won't go into it too deep in here because that's not really necessary if, you want to go and see it on there. But that's kind of a nice little highlight of what took place, right? At the end of the day, Margaret had shared that she did invite, but understood that Dolores wouldn't want to be a part of that kind of session of people getting together, because of the fact that, like Rachel shared last night, that yes, it was not a takedown situation of Louis, but it was to talk about Louis because of the investigator situation. So they were going to address it at the reunion from last year. So that's really what that comprised of for there. So let's see. Then we are kind of moving into a little bit more territory to getting to the actual event itself, the sit-down event. However, before we get there, we do take a slight detour to the point where the ladies are getting ready for that sit-down. And I know you're going to know what exactly we're going to be talking about here, right? Yes. The Louis apology, which was an apology then. He's had one now. I did a video about that too. So if you hadn't got a chance to see that one, take a moment to take some time to view that one too. Gives you the details and everything about that. Andy spoke and everything else, because it was messy. It was nasty. It was horrible. It was something you shouldn't say. And in a nutshell, I do much more detailed breakdown of it in the recap and review. But for the nutshell for this video, basically he says, when he's talking to Teresa, how do you plan on dealing with this? Of course, Teresa says, well, I'm not very strategic. The ladies in real time watching this are laughing because we all know that Teresa is not that strategic, but she's saying I go off more on feeling. And so that's how that's going to go. And then, of course, he just, Louis in that time frame, as he's talking to her, basically says, well, basically at the end of the day, he wants bad for, Margaret. He wants Margaret to suffer, and he wants Margaret's son to suffer. And he says it's very specific, because what they did to our family, I want them to suffer. Now, mind you, this is before the whole reveal that it was Jackie that was talking to that ex that had Louis in the legal stuff, allegedly, or whatever the case may be. But it was in response to the restraining order that was being put out that, apparently he won that case. So this is before that reveal, right? So it just makes it even nastier. Like, why are you bringing the children, whether they're adult children or not? That was the whole reason why they had an issue with you in the first place, is because apparently what was being told to them and what they feel that they've got enough information on is that allegedly, I'll say allegedly, but they're saying, hey, look, you contacted my son. So to bring him up, to be that specific about it, it just boggled my mind that he did that. And I understand being angry, and I'm sure there's a lot that we don't know that's going on behind the scenes, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, you leave the kids alone, whether they're adults or not. You leave them alone. I don't know if we've even seen Margaret's son on the show. And if we did, it was very quick. He's been referenced, but that's about it. So he's not even a cast member. He's not coming at you as a cast member. Leave that boy alone, or young man alone, or whatever the case may be, So yeah, Louis got a lot of flack for that, and he should have. So by the fact that he did apologize, I felt that was good. I hope that that's what he meant. But, some may feel like maybe it wasn't, it was horrible and everybody saw it and he got a lot of backlash. So, there's that. And nowadays, sometimes you don't always know if the apology is really, legit, or if it's sincere, or if it's just because you got caught. It's unfortunate, but, because so many people do things that you should know better, right? And he put himself in a position that he should have known better. So of course, now the ladies in real time are watching that take place. And so of course, everybody reacts to it, right? Including Dolores, who was and I'm glad, because I forgot about the fact that, there was a little bit of conversation that she said, look, I'm not going to talk about my son, right, at the reunion, in regards to the fact that her son apparently worked with Louis on some kind of project, and she was happy about it, but there was something else going on. And, and of course, the issue with the private investigator, the Bodita, was supposed to be investigating everybody. That would have included also Frank Senior as well, and he was there, and had that whole thing. So if you watched the season finale from last year, you would have seen that. So it was a tricky situation. And so she had said, look, I have backed Louis on many of the things against a lot of other people. I'm telling you, him saying this was wrong. And Teresa wanted to actually, kind of defend Louis in this. And I understand standing by your man, but my goodness, not through everything that's wrong. I mean, I get it. Some people will have the mindset, look, you praise them even when they are wrong in public. Yeah, for certain things, I agree with that. But in this case, acknowledge the fact that, it wasn't cool. It just wasn't cool. He shouldn't have said it. He is apologetic of it. But at the end of the day, we were upset. We were hurt. But, again, he should not have said that. Now, some would have said that maybe that's too much to say that, right? Because there's no excuse for what he did. But at the same time, it just really did not bode well for her to be fighting behind that, especially that when a metaphor was brought to her about one of her kids, she lost her sugar honey on iced tea. Okay. She lost it about that. And it was a metaphor. The woman didn't say this about your child. She said, this is how would you feel if something like this was said? Because she was trying to appease her, or appeal to her, excuse me. And that was just, that went on too long, right? So that's what Dolores is trying to tell her, but Dolores is very direct. And she's like, look, the bottom line, he was wrong. So eventually, of course, Teresa did go through the fact that don't sit there and defend, Margaret in front of me. And that's not what she was doing. And she says that I'm not defending her, but I am saying that him bringing in the kids, bringing in the children, having anything to say about the children is wrong. That's off limits. If y'all want to go back at it and forth with it, that's fine, but leave the kids out of it. So, she just says, okay, people make mistakes. It's Teresa now, as she basically kind of rescinds a little bit and says, okay, look, people make mistakes. I'll make sure he apologizes. So if that show happened and taped before the actual article had dropped not too long ago about Louis apologizing, then maybe that was part of the connection to that apology. Not sure which one came first. But yeah, so, finally she kind of relents on that, and then we move forward from that. And then of course we do more of an overview of the actual reveal that obviously that Jackie was the person that was behind having the ex of Louis at her house some years ago, as a response to what she felt as Teresa attacking her and going after her and trying to hurt her with the rumors that Teresa had apparently was spreading or speaking about when it came to Jackie's husband. And of course, we know that Jackie was in tears quite a bit during that season of that reveal of that rumor really situation. I think it all came out to the head that he did not do these things, but it just was a huge thing. And of course, Jackie did speak about it in more detail. I have that in my recap review as well. But she, basically just stands by what she said. At the end of the day, I did go and speak to her after she lied over and over again, right? And then she finally just wanted to come clean because she was concerned about coming clean because of what that would mean, right? You don't want another altercation with this woman. So at this point, she was nervous about it, but then she's now relieved that it is out. It is what it is. And I told you my thoughts about that last week as well. I feel like if you were going to have everything out on the table, we're going to be real friends, why not have just told her that in the first place, right? It just seems icky. It feels icky. It feels slimy, and it is what it is. But, I guess at least Teresa came at you directly. You didn't come out so direct, right? So at the end of the day, that's always going to be there. But Teresa has basically said, hey, look, I am going to stay cool with you. It's fine. I hurt you. And you felt I hurt you, even though I really wasn't trying to hurt you, but I did. And so I understand why you did what you did. I feel that part of that, though, is because she will do anything to keep her anger towards Margaret in any capacity, whatever that looks like. Because I think it was a bit of a slight blow to the fact that, it wasn't Margaret that home run that she really was looking for. So she's kind of talking around it. So yeah, they went ahead and talked more about that. Of course, we also get a few other tidbits about some of the ladies not speaking at this moment and the reasons why they're not. So just to run through that real quickly, we do find out Jen Fessler apparently has shared with Rachel and the ladies that, in particular, about the fact that her and Teresa are not really speaking, or she's not really speaking to anybody, Jennifer Aiden to be included, because she's very disappointed in them. There were some things that were put out there in tweets and whatnot that she had came across, and she just wasn't about all of that. She didn't appreciate it. So she's been keeping her distance. We know that Danielle also is keeping her distance from Teresa because apparently they were up for a People's Choice Award and they had just got through texting each other. And then a friend of Danielle had basically shared some tweets or whatever that was out there in social media that Teresa had said that was not flattering to her and maybe some of the other cast members. So she felt, okay, it's time for me to back up here as well. So she's not speaking with her. And then of course we know pretty much all the other ladies where they stand at this point. But they were really surprised about Jennifer Fessler really just kind of backing up, and so am I. I didn't hear anything derogatory between the other ladies in regards to Jennifer Fessler. So we'll see how that goes as time goes on and we get another season with all of the ladies there. So that was important to kind of go over to get a feel from where they were at. So as they're going through all of this, just saying the things they're saying, laughing over some of the points, the finer points that we saw from the video, and then just making, some of the small talk or not so small talk and insults continued about the lunch. The sit down, and that was basically it. Then we get to a point where we're wrapping this up and the ladies are doing their confessional points and coming up with one long sentence that basically just says, look, it was a lot, and we're really going to have to see how things are going to shake up. At the end of the day, Dolores, which I really was glad to hear her say, hope this is not really over, for all of them. They do feel like they're in a place where things are done at this point. They also shared that there are certain relationships that are probably not going to recover from this. Melissa basically says for her and her family, she's cool on Teresa. There's no reason to have anything else to say. She has nothing else to say with them. It seems like Joe Gorga, Teresa's brother, has been completely immersed and, accepted fully into Melissa's family, and they are taking over that space there. I still feel it to be really sad, and I really wish that there was some way that Teresa and Joe could get back to being, reconciled, because they are the two of just their immediate family. We all know their parents are gone, and that was very obviously a very sad situation to go through. And the daughters and the sons and cousins and all of them, they're growing up and having all these milestones in life, and we'll have more milestones in life that if they don't get a repair going, no one's going to be there for. And I know Teresa's being immersed into Louis' family, right? Because each separate, spouse's family's kind of taking them in, and that's all great and fine, but that's not her immediate situation. And I just would hope at some point they can get that together. So Margaret shares that she feels that, this was definitely the end and the it, because it gave us the opportunity of what good versus evil is, who was the good guys and who were the bad guys, right? So naturally, Margaret feels from her spectrum that her and the girls in that room with her were the good ones and the other ones not so much. Of course, it's going to be interesting yet to be seen how this all goes. But it looks at this point, that's the way the ladies are in the room is how they're split up for the most part. And with still Dolores kind of, being okay either way. But definitely her primary spot is going to be with Teresa and Jennifer. She already pretty much said that when she said, yeah, what other room would I be in when she first got there, right? Because it was kind of a toss-up for both of them, right? Now, also to that end, we'll talk about ladies not speaking to each other anymore. Teresa does mention about Danielle being, because, Danielle was the part of the trio there for a minute, right, with Jennifer Aiden, and Teresa really wanted Jennifer and Danielle to talk and kind of reconcile their situation, didn't want to be in the middle of that. Well, now that Danielle basically cut off contact with her because of what I shared with you with those not text messages, but I believe tweets and such that was put out on social media. Well, Teresa's saying she doesn't know what happened, but she didn't know what happened, but hey, I have nothing to say to her now. Okay. That doesn't sound very mature to me. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't know what's happening and you really cared about that girl, you probably would have asked her. And if she didn't want to tell you, then fine, then you would probably space back, or, at least would have an idea of what's going on. You could disagree with it or not, but to just kind of I'm cutting it off, it makes me feel like it's a little bit trite there, but it is what it is. So all the ladies basically have said what they need to say. They're getting ready to go. The show is pretty much over. I still feel that we are still somewhat in limbo. I don't feel like it's a complete situation. This is just my thoughts. I would love to know yours if you're watching the show. If you watched it, let me know what you think. Down in the comment section below. Do you feel like this was kind of the end? Because I don't feel that. I feel like there is still room for this to continue on. And here's my thought, and this may be an unpopular opinion as well. I don't think the show needs a reboot, truth be told. I don't think it needs a reboot. I don't think it needs a retwerk. Here's an even greater thing. I don't think any of the ladies should leave. And I didn't say that last week. I was cool with Jackie being gone. I still feel like Jackie should stay in the friend zone. I don't think that she should necessarily go back to the primary anymore, because I don't know, I'm not feeling Jackie. And if Jackie was to no longer be part of the show, I'm okay with it. Because I found it interesting that in her professional part at the end, she's the one that basically says, obviously things are the way they are and there needs to be a change. Well, yeah, you don't need to be there. I mean, you're not a primary. So at the end of the day, if you're here to cause rift in the situation, because sometimes that happens with storylines, they don't have enough in the meat with the cast, they'll bring randoms in. If that's the case, then I think we're good on you, right? We know who you are and we know what you're about at this point. I think a lot of people are feeling a certain kind of way about Jackie in that, not that maybe her personally, because we don't know her personally, but at least I don't anyways. But I just don't like really what she's showing now. It just seems off to me, and it seems like there's probably even more to come with that. But hey, that's how you start off friendships. You do you boo. But one of the, I think, best moments of the show, other than some of the back insults, I mean, come on, some of them were funny. And Danielle, if I can say, for me, in my opinion, she was an MVP for me for the entire season. I think that Jennifer Fessler did a good job at kind of getting to realizations quicker than I thought she would. And she didn't walk off the naive train for me. So I'm glad about that. She kind of put things out there and she stayed on the ground that I could kind of get with. And I understand about the toxicity. We don't like to be around that. But Danielle was MVP for me. Danielle was funny. She was quirky. She's smart, of course. She's got things going on. She had a lot of great storyline stuff to put out there for us this season. So I absolutely adore Danielle. I adore Rachel. Rachel, the same. Rachel without all the hands, but still the same. I'm interested in their stories. I'm interested in what's going on, what they want to show. I'm interested in it. Of course, they also say that they feel the other ladies in the room, the Teresa, the Jackie, and the Jennifer, that they want to be them, and in the sense that not so much be them, but they're obsessed with them, right? And Rachel says, look, they're obsessed because, look, they ain't got enough to do. We got businesses, houses, families, husbands, all this stuff, things that are going on in our lives, and they're obviously don't have the same level of things that keeps them going. So at this point, that's what they just kind of laughingly put off to that. But, it really does seem, if one thing that the ladies separated are steeped very much in friendship with there. And I still think there's something that can be done with that. That's just my thoughts, my opinion. But I think one of the sweet moments of the situation was the very end. And this is why I say I don't think it's over. It can't be over, right? We've got to know more. But that Rachel lets us know in a toast. It was so cute as they're toasting. And I'm sure she's toasting with water or juice or whatever. She basically says, yeah, well, we've got so many things to do. Life moves on. Life goes on. And I'm pregnant. And oh my gosh, the ladies are just so over the moon. I mean, I had to look at it again. I'm like, wait a minute, this she said what I thought she said. Oh, so happy for Rachel. So congratulations, definitely order for her and John and the rest of their family. I think that is great. And I do hope that Real Housewives of New Jersey will come back next season in short order with just a continuation and rebuilding in areas in which they can rebuild. I know that Jackie asked Teresa, how do you feel about ever reconnecting with Margaret? Because I understand how you feel about Melissa, and that there's probably not going to be any connection there. Of course, she says what she says about the groveling, all that stuff, but we all know it's not going to happen. But, maybe there's some room, some way to do something, and I hope they figure that out. But I don't think that anyone should go. I think that everybody should kind of just figure it out as the adults that we are. But that's my opinion. I sure would love to know yours. What did you think about the non-reunion that was last night's episode? Did you miss the reunion? Were you cool with the way they did it? Do you think that that was adequate enough? Just let me know your thoughts respectfully down in the comment section below. And I think at this point, I'm going to bid you adieu. I am so glad that you were here to just hang out with me a little bit about this non-reunion it is. But I think I'm going to miss, I want to say RHOA, because that's another one I want to talk about with you guys later on. But I'm going to miss New Jersey because they're one that I've always liked. Or RHOA was always my number one, but they were like my number two. And so, yeah, I'm gonna miss the ladies, and hopefully they'll figure out something. I think that some of the consensus for some people they are asking, they're basically sharing, hey, look, maybe we don't do a re-thing. Maybe y'all just take a break for a minute, kind of collect yourselves, maybe do some behind the scenes work a little bit and see if we can't come back together later on. I think that we would all love to see that for those, and then get back to some of the what we love New Jersey's Real Housewives franchise to be. So that being said, again, I'm going to bid you adieu. I hope you have a great day. I probably will pop up with another video later on. So definitely make sure you have your notification bell on so that way you do not miss my upload. I'm thinking I'm going to be probably dropping one in regards to the Braxtons that did start back up last week. I want to say Friday. So yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit. But definitely make sure you have that notification bell on. And if you are new here and you haven't subscribed yet, I hope that you will and become part of the family. Love to have you. Of course, it's free. And I would definitely love to have you here. I'd love to know your thoughts as I'm sharing mine. And I think with that, take care. And of course, be blessed. Bye.